but where we did our research was a community in Colombia on the coast called Palenque. And in Palenque we arrived with other members of UC Riverside, there were also students there who received a PIRE grant to do their research, and some of Dr. Julie Duce's students. And here's a picture of us all in our We Are Penn State shirts, but it says it in lengua, so it says Situas aquí en Palenque, or Penn State aquí en Palenque, which is pretty cool. And yeah, as soon as we got there, we started our research right away. And we became acquainted with the town square and met all of the predominant community members, which was one of my favorite parts. And we also got to play soccer, and we took a hike with Bernardino. And I love hiking and I love backpacking, and this was one of the hardest hikes and hottest hikes I've ever done. But it was beautiful, and here we are down here. More about Palenque. We had closer interactions between animals and humans than we do here at Penn State, for sure. It was really normal to see pigs and chickens and dogs just kind of wandering the streets, but also coming into houses and out of houses. And one of my favorite stories is I woke up with Natalie, and there were tortoises under our beds, and we were kind of like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And joked about that. So in terms of our research, we conducted our research wherever we could, whether that was in homes and on benches or tables outside and in the shade. And sometimes it was really loud, but we learned to kind of get creative. And the way that I did my research was I recorded interviews, and when I was listening back at the interviews, you can really just hear what life is like and the life going on around you. You hear someone sweeping, you hear a baby crying, you hear sirens, and we were really just in the community doing our research, totally doing ethnographic work at its fullest. So in terms of my research, I had two kind of hypotheses. My first one was, among what social and conversational contexts is Palenque more commonly used than Spanish, and among which sociolinguistic circles, and what are the changes in how language is taught now? And I had predicted that older generations are going to speak more often than younger generations, and younger generations are probably only going to speak lingua in schools and not really outside of schools, and that many younger families won't speak lingua with their children in the home because they themselves use lingua really sparingly. And then my second question was, how does gender impact language use and choice, specifically amongst the women in Palenque? And I assumed that there would be negative associations with the female speaker, and they would assume that the male speaker is going to be more fluent than the female speaker. So what did I do? I interviewed about 59 participants. I got really sick, so I couldn't get any more, but 59 is good. And they were between the ages of 16 and 63. And like I said, these participants, I recorded interviews I did with them. I listened to various statements recorded by both the female and male speakers. I had sentences, about 20 different sentences or phrases said by the male speaker and the same ones said by the female speaker, and the participants just listened to them. And then for the interview portion, I asked them a bunch of questions about their language use. So, who do you speak lingua with? Who do you feel most comfortable speaking with? Do you speak to your children? And do you think the language is going to survive? Questions like that. So my results on the gender portion was that it was very in line with what my hypothesis was, that the women were perceived to speak lesser than the men in lingua, whether that was less fluent or less clear or less natural. And a lot of the keywords that I looked at were the woman speaks less fluent, the woman doesn't speak as well, or she sounds more childish. And then my second biggest portion was that the man and woman speak equally as good, which is there in the orange. And then for yellow, I have the man and woman speak equally as bad, which was also kind of interesting because the person that I had reported for the male speaker was actually one of the best teachers of lingua, so that was kind of interesting. And then I had for the green, they answered something that was other than the language. Maybe they said something about how the woman sounded really proud or something like that. And then, other things to note were the yellow, that the man and the woman speak equally, as bad, and then the orange, man and woman speak equally as good. So my results for the interview portion, about 63% of participants